now. And I will go ahead with this introduction. Welcome, everyone. I'm Paul Holtus, founding president and CEO of the World Ocean Council. And what I'd like to do is give you all a brief introduction to the World Ocean Council, what we do, why we are doing that, and how we particularly focus, amongst other things, on ocean carbon dioxide removal and blue carbon from the business and investment perspective. And I will go ahead and share a screen here and hopefully be able to still see those who are coming into the meeting room here and be able to admit them as we do this introduction. And I hope everyone can see that. Let's see if there's always a bit of a challenge with these advancing or not. So we are the global blue economy business and investment organization. The World Ocean Council is bringing together the various sectors of the business community to work together to create that collaboration, that leadership, that action on ocean sustainable development. And let's just see if this will advance properly. This is a quick overview of what we consist of as a leadership alliance, bringing together the direct ocean users as well as the surrounding ocean ecosystem of support industries and the insurance, investment, legal communities to really, as I say, catalyze that leadership and collaboration on ocean sustainable development, what we call corporate ocean responsibility. We have the largest, by far, global network private sector network on the ocean and sustainable development. At the core, we're a membership company. I would acknowledge the members as being the support that makes it possible for us to do what we do, and including two companies directly involved in the carbon dioxide removal space, Ocean Nourishment, which has been a member for almost over a decade now, and Ocean-Based Climate Solutions. All of this work is to bring together this collective global multi-industry, multi-sector business community, private sector community around collaboration on a healthy and productive ocean and its sustainable use, being driven by business value, business benefits, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there. And this deck will be available. I'm going to go very quickly just to, and I'll see if I can go full screen here if that works, to give you an orientation to the World Ocean Council. We are accredited and formally recognized by a whole range of United Nations and other intergovernmental bodies, international business organizations, et cetera. I've highlighted a few there that are particularly relevant to the climate context. We have a range of thematic areas, cross-cutting framework on investment. We organize the only annual business and investment gathering, the Sustainable Ocean Summit. That's the only gathering of that sort that's focused on the role of the private sector and ocean sustainable development. This slide and the next gives you a quick sense of the programmatic areas. I won't dive into any of these in detail except the first one, but just to give you a sense of the broad scope of the cross-cutting multi-industry issues and challenges and opportunities for a global, connected up, collaborative ocean business and investment community. And I'll just highlight one of the ones on this page, the Smart Ocean, Smart Industries program, which is directly relevant to the role of the ocean in CO2 removal in terms of increasing the amount of data we have and the kinds of monitoring and evaluation of the ocean that could be significantly scaled up by harnessing some of the 90,000 merchant ships, 3 to 4 million fishing boats, tens of thousands of platforms from different industries that are in the ocean. Myself personally, I've been involved in the CO2 removal situation for about 15 years, and then the World Ocean Council from nearly its very beginning through these variety of efforts. As you see here, and we do have the Ocean Carbon Dioxide Removal, Blue Carbon Restoration Roundtable that meets monthly. For those of you that are interested there, again, our focus, our constituency, our efforts are focused on the business and investment community. This is a business organization. What we do through that program and the roundtable really creating a way for the business and investment community to focus on CDR, negative emission technologies, blue carbon, to really advance that by bringing together the entrepreneurs, the enterprises that are creating the businesses that work on this, the technologies that deliver on the pathways that have been identified for ocean CDR, and the investors and funders that are interested in this from across the investment and funding community, and engaging the carbon credit and removal marketplace organizations on the particular needs, values, opportunities of ocean and coastal ecosystem carbon dioxide removal. These are some of the ways we're going about that through the roundtable in particular. Again, this will be available to anyone who would like to request it. My email address it will be on the last slide again, and I won't dwell on this, but we have a very vibrant community that's developing through the roundtable and through this program that we for the business and investment community that we've been developing over the last decade, and now really accelerating that work to engage in these sorts of areas that really span the scope of what's needed to advance ocean CO2 removal and negative emission technology development. Again, with the main focus on the industry, the actual companies and businesses that are being established and the investor interest in that. I'd particularly highlight, in addition, the enabling ecosystem or processes that need to be in place. The bottom one, the measuring of CO2 removal, which I know a lot of you will be conscious of and challenged with if you're involved in setting up a business to sequester carbon. And for the ocean, obviously significant challenges with that. And we at the World Ocean Council are getting increasingly approached by those who would like us to convene, as we do, as a not-for-profit sort of agnostic business community organization, convene the companies, the technologies that can, both from the satellite side and the in-situ monitoring side, that can be monitoring baseline, establishing baseline and then monitoring two things: the CO2 removal, our companies achieving and delivering on what they propose to do, and that the investors need to see that and the market needs to see that. And secondly, of course, to monitor the surrounding ecosystem to ensure that there are not unanticipated, unacceptable levels of impacts on water quality, the biodiversity, et cetera. So that's a part of what's coming soon in this process. And specifically, and just to wrap up here, that the roundtable has led us to a point where the companies that are involved and the investors and others really we're exploring now the development of a kind of a business association for ocean carbon dioxide removal, for the reasons you see on the screen here, in terms of creating a collective voice, and really ensuring that people understand what ocean CDR is all about, the different pathways, the pros and cons, the opportunity to really tackle climate change with that that global ecosystem that is the single biggest source for CO2 sequestration already through its natural processes, and is part of an uncontrolled natural experiment right now. And so with all of that in mind, we, a final note, that we just 2 days ago heard that the side event that we had proposed and then merged with the Prince Albert II Foundation and some others has been accepted as an official formal side event at COP26 in a few weeks, with a focus on carbon sequestration in the ocean. And for those of you that are involved in COP26 in person or virtually, this will be happening on the 6th of November. So with all that in mind, then we have reached out to the XPrize to help with the amazing opportunity created by Elon Musk to reach out to the ocean business and investment community to ensure people are aware of how they could best engage with the XPrize and this incredible opportunity. And so we have Nikki Batchelor, Prize Director, Michael Leitch, and Rupa Dandamundi to take on the opportunity here to engage with all of you from the ocean community about the XPrize. And I will hand over to Nikki. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Rupa's going to go ahead and share some slides, and the three of us are just going to give a little bit of an overview of what we're up to and what it means to be running this new XPrize carbon removal. We will definitely save time at the end for questions, but if you have any along the way, definitely feel free to put them in the chat and we can start responding to them as we see them come in, and we can go through them also at the end. So just to start off with a few introductions here, this is the team on our side. The four of us run the XPrize carbon removal. We've all been with XPrize for quite some time now, working on all of our energy and climate work. We previously ran the NRG COSIA Carbon XPrize, which was more on the carbon utilization side of things. So we consider this to be building upon all of the work we've been doing in the space and a nice expansion into something we all know is very important. So my name is Nikki Batchelor. I'm the prize director. I manage a lot of our operations and partnerships work. We're joined today with Michael Leach, who's the technical lead on the program. He is an engineer and very skilled at running all of the measurement and verification operations, and he's going to give kind of an overview today about what it means to build a demonstration in this place, in this competition, and what we will be looking at from a judging perspective. And then Rupa Dandamudi will be talking about what does it mean to actually join the competition. She manages all of our team relations and operations from that standpoint. So as you can imagine, that's a big undertaking right now. We have quite a few teams that have expressed interest in competing in the prize. So we're just trying to make sure at this point that, we're reaching all the right people, and we're very excited to be talking to this group today because ocean CO2 capture is definitely a big piece of what we're doing, and we know there's a community that's been working on this topic for quite some time, and are excited to learn about all of the different expertise and new research underway in this area. So just to give a small background on XPrize, we're a nonprofit based in Los Angeles. We tackle big global challenges like climate change, other things around equity, exploration, rainforests, ocean discovery. We've done all kinds of prizes in the past, and we try and tackle this through the mechanism of using an incentive prize competition. So that is really our model, is to put a carrot out there and try and shift the movement and accelerate the pace of innovation around a particular topic, and also build a network effect in a community to really leverage different skill sets that maybe all of the different startups in the space don't have all of the pieces yet. So we try and do matchmaking along the way. We try and facilitate partnerships with other organizations and use the prize as a platform to really amplify progress towards a particular challenge. So that's what we're hoping to do here for carbon removal. And we work in what we call different domain areas. I think that the next slide here has information about our different domains, which I started to mention. A lot of our work is grouped here. XPrize really got their start in the exploration space. Our first XPrize was the Ansari XPrize, which helped launch the private space industry, but now we really work across many topics. I think the next slide has a few figures just on all of the prizes that we've launched to date and money that we've awarded over the years. We are excited that this is the largest prize that we've ever run. It's also really the largest private prize in history. So it's a good opportunity to be trying to bring people together to work on this topic. So let's dig into that. I think that we just wanted to level set with the group. What we're really trying to do here with the competition is increase the supply of carbon removal solutions. We know we're seeing a lot of new demand come in the space with companies making all kinds of net zero commitments, some companies specifically being really interested in carbon removal as part of that strategy. People are trying to purchase carbon removals. There is a very limited amount of supply that is actually durable, low cost, and scalable available on the market right now. So we are trying to pump the front end of that pipeline to get the levels to where we need to be, one, to solve the problem, but also to meet the growing demand. So the competition is structured in a way you'll see on the next slide here, where we hold a significant amount of the funding till the end of the 4 years. However, we do try and seed the market with some early stage funding to help with the demonstrations for really promising teams. We just closed our student award submission a week ago, and we have 195 submissions that came in. We're happy with that number from all over the world. These are student teams that are just getting started, and we're going into our judging phase for that to award $5 million to those teams. The awards will be on the smaller side in terms of the grand scheme of things of what we're doing. $250,000 for teams to get started on that work, and $100,000 for monitoring and verification technologies, because we know those will be important to the competition. We'll be making the announcement of the winners of that at COP26. So it's great to hear there'll also be some presence there, so we can collaborate on that and make sure to join your events. And then going into next spring, this is really the big thing we want to talk about today. So we're still recruiting teams across all different carbon removal pathways to compete and be considered for the milestone awards. We'll be giving 15 awards out, $1 million each, to teams to fund their demonstrations, at least to start funding their demonstrations, because we know this is a very expensive endeavor. And then we kind of go a little bit quieter on our side, on the XPrize side, because the teams, everyone who's competing in the competition, will really need to go deep on developing their technology and accelerating that pace between 2022 and the final year of the competition. 2025 is when we award out the rest of the money. Between that, we'll be checking in with teams, and then ultimately we'll select some finalists to go deeper with in terms of measurement verification visits. So we'll be visiting the sites all around the world of where the teams are that are, reaching that stage of the competition. We'll be looking at, their life cycle analysis, their cost analysis, and doing a full round of reviews with the judges that are from all over the world. We have 12 independent judges who work with us to review the submissions and make the final decisions. I believe there's just one more slide here in my section. We just wanted to mention that using the prize as a platform really means building partnerships along the way. So, we're excited to have kind of our first group of partners on board that are all working in the accelerator space loosely. So all of these organizations are running carbon removal accelerators. We are not an accelerator ourselves, although we do kind of function in a similar way. And so a lot of times teams think that we provide a full curriculum of accelerator incubator type programming along the way. And we actually prefer to partner with other organizations to provide that support. So all of these great groups here are running their own programs. And so we're encouraging all of our competitors to, find one that makes sense for you, because they all have a different focus, a different stage that they're working towards, geographic focus. Ocean Vision's obviously thematic. So depending on, where the startups are, these might be a good fit. So we're just trying to make sure that everybody knows that these exist and that there are opportunities for teams to really work with mentors and industry partners, which is very important, especially in the early stages. So I think with that, I'm probably going to hand it over to, just one more on the partnerships. Another initiative that we started at XPrize under our last Carbon XPrize is called the Circular Carbon Network. This is something that we have been working on because when we got started working on carbon tech, it really was a new space. There was not a lot of market intelligence available. And so we've been gathering data on the growth of this industry, and now have expanded it to include carbon removal as well as carbon utilization. And so we look at the number of startups working in this space over time. We've been tracking the growth, and we've been producing annual reports. So if that's something you're interested in accessing, I encourage you to go check this out. You can see last year's market report is available on the website, and we'll be releasing a new one either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. You can see all of the innovator index has all the startups, but we also have a deal hub for companies that are actively raising money. We've been building a network of investors generally interested in carbon tech and carbon removal. And so we profile deals, fundraising deals to that audience. And so we allow companies to submit, what their profiles are and what their fundraising details are. And then we have also been tracking corporate action in this space with our corporate index, and the investor index has a listing of everyone who's kind of expressed that they're working in the carbon space, so that we've been just trying to track this and make the information available for people. It's a public resource right now. You just have to sign up to get access to it. So we like to mention that and make sure folks know it's a resource that's available. So with that, now I will hand it over to Mike, who can give you a little bit deeper overview of what it means to compete in the competition.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Thanks, Nikki, for the intro. So I'm going to talk about the technical requirements of the competition in a little bit more detail. You'll notice that everything that I'm going to present is very general. I haven't changed the presentation for an ocean focus. And so if there's any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or save them, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So the first and I think one of the biggest messages that we wanted to communicate to you and everyone else that we talked to is just to drive home the breadth of scope of this program. Our objective is really to try and inspire as many different shapes and sizes of carbon dioxide removal technology that we can. And so everything's in scope. And one of the things we found when we were first designing this prize and talking to folks about it is, lots of people would say, well, this couldn't possibly be for me. It's, it sounds like this is more of a industrial technology prize, or this sounds like more of like a tree planting prize. And the message really is everything is in. We've been talking about the space in these four sort of categories: air, ocean, land, and rocks. But fundamentally, if you can remove CO2, demonstrating net removal, if you can sequester the CO2 in a durable way, and our threshold for durability is at least 100 years, and we can verify that your technology works, then it's eligible for the prize. So ocean technologies are certainly no exception, and we're really excited to see lots of ocean-oriented teams already registered for the competition, and we'd love to see many more. So fundamentally, this is a demonstration competition. We're asking teams to do three things, and the first and most important thing is to build and run a working demonstration. For the student awards, the application deadline just passed. We did not require a working demonstration, but for all of the remaining prize money that we'll be giving out over the next few years, we do require demonstrations of working solutions, whether that's hardware, or whether that's equipment, or whether that's demonstration of an ecosystem. We do need to see working carbon removal in action. The second thing each team needs to do is calculate the cost of carbon removal. And we're asking teams to do this at a sort of a hypothetical scaled up version of their solution. So in addition to the working demonstration, we're asking teams to target 1,000 tons per year. We want to see a megaton scale calculation of what such a project will cost. Those megaton scale demonstrations are really sort of the next step in terms of projects that are have a meaningful impact on global carbon levels, and so that's where we need to get to as quickly as possible. And the third piece is on scalability. We are looking for solutions and teams who have creative approaches that can scale to that gigaton level and beyond. And this isn't necessarily meant to be an exclusionary criteria, but really a challenge for teams to identify and address any significant challenges to scalability. So we want to see creative solutions that can mitigate any challenges that are imposed. Whether those be like externalities, risk of re-emission, competing land use challenges, that sort of thing. If we can get teams to think creatively and address some of those challenges, we think that's a win. So the next slide sort of mirrors the last slide in that this is sort of where the rubber hits the road on those three criteria that I just described. So each team is going to be evaluated on the following things. One, or operational performance. How does it run, first of all, and then how well does it run? We place a heavy emphasis on verification and independent verification of each technology that wins an XPrize. And we really are serious when we say we want to see working demonstrations that can be reliably demonstrated and proven out. You'll be evaluated on the sustainability criteria that I described. That includes durability of the sequestered CO2. That includes verification that the system is in fact net negative and drawing down carbon dioxide on a net basis. As well as some of those broader, gigaton scalability factors like scale and rate limiting factors and environmental justice. And then that cost piece is kind of the last criteria that the judges will look at. You can consider it almost like a tiebreaker. If teams have stepped over those first two barriers and proven to the judges that their technology works, that it's scalable, then the solutions are going to be ranked by cost in selection of the ultimate winners. So Nikki described this calendar at a high level. The dates that I'm showing you are the submission dates. So this is really when the teams need to be ready by. The October 1st submission deadline for the student awards just passed. Our next major submission deadline is on February 1st of next year. At that point, you will have to have a working demonstration at any scale, and it doesn't have to be fully operational in terms of scope. What we want to see is a demonstration of a key component. So we want to see evidence that the system that you intend to build over the next few years is actually going to work as you intend it to work. So that really leaves a lot of room for interpretation. We're looking forward to seeing a lot of creative demonstrations and accompanying that demonstration is a detailed technical proposal, as well as information around the costing and sustainability criteria that I described before. Teams then get a couple of years to work on their solutions, and this is really the building phase. Every team is going to have to raise their own capital, hire their people, get their equipment built and deployed, apply for permits, all of that good stuff. And by February 2024, we will be asking teams to apply for a site visit. So at this point in time, we want to see demonstrations up and running at that 1,000 ton per year scale or bigger. We want to see evidence that operations can be sustained at that 1,000 ton per year type of scale. And between February 2024 and February 2025 is when we'll be out in the field doing our verification of the competitors who are selected for site visits. In February 2025, there will be a final application that the judges will look at and ultimately give away the grand prize awards. So you may be asking yourself, what do I do next? The detailed guidelines and frequently asked questions on our website are a very, very good place to start. Our website is www.xprize.org/carbon removal. I'll put that up on the screen in a second. Download the guidelines, read them carefully, read through the frequently asked questions. We also have recordings of our past webinars and other information there. The next thing you have to do is register on our prize operations platform. I think Rupa is going to talk about that in just a moment. You only need to do this once for the entire competition. There is a small registration fee of $250, and you have to sign a competitor's agreement that says, that you promise to have appropriate insurance and that you promise not to steal anyone's IP and that sort of thing. Once you do that, you are in, and really it's on you to be ready to go at those submission deadlines. We'll be issuing submission templates. We're just working on the milestone submission template and hope to get that out to the world very shortly. And then it's up to each team to put their best foot forward, provide evidence of a working demonstration that meets the criteria in the guidelines, and based on that information, the judges will award the money. So start developing your solutions. This is our website, xprize.org/carbon removal. That's where you'll find a link to the prize operations platform, information on webinars, guidelines, so on and so forth. And so I think with that, I'll pass the mic to Rupa, who's going to talk a little bit more about the registration process.
Great, thanks, Mike. So as Mike mentioned, the prize operations platform is sort of the central hub of XPrize carbon removal. It's where
Sorry, Rupa. This is Paul. Sorry to interrupt. If I could
Sure.
get people who are not from XPrize to close their video so that we've got Rupa on the screen that's being recorded here. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I think if it's just the presenters with their video open, there we go. Wonderful. From my side, that's what I see now. So I wanted to make sure you were on screen, Rupa, with what's being recorded. Apologies for interrupting.
Thanks. Yeah, so the prize operations platform is the central hub of where for XPrize carbon removal and all our prizes and challenges. It's where all your team information is stored. It's where our judges access team submissions. It's where you register to compete in a prize, where you add and remove team members, how you complete the different stages of registration, etc. So that's the first stop that you're going to make if you are interested in joining the competition. So the way you access POP is you access our main prize webpage, and you'll see a big pink register now button. And so you'll click that, and that'll take you to the POP portal. You'll need to create an account, verify your account. And once you do that, you'll be able to log in. You'll be able to create a user profile. This is just going to be how you access POP for, say you're interested in competing for another competition later on down the road. This is your one sort of POP login. But when you do that, you fill in all your information, and on the bottom there where it says interests, you can put XPrize carbon removal. And once you do that, you're set. You're in POP. You have a profile. You'll go to the prizes page and go to XPrize carbon removal's prize icon here, and then you'll click create a team. And once you complete your team profile, you'll be able to access all the activities that you'll need to complete throughout the competition as a competitor in XPrize carbon removal. So at first you'll see the registration activities, and those are completing the team registration form, paying the registration fee, and signing and submitting the competitor agreement. So the registration form is we're asking specific questions to get an idea of who's competing, what area of CDR you're working in, that sort of thing. Questions about your company or your team and where you are currently. The competitor agreement contains all the sort of legal implications of what it means to be in an XPrize competition. So lots of important information there to review carefully before you complete it. And if you need technical support through any of this process, with the prize operations platform, you can email popsupport@xprize.org. So say you forgot your password, or you're not seeing something you think you should be seeing on screen, our POP support team should be able to help you figure that out. So in terms of resources available online for anyone interested, the first thing that is pretty critical to review is the competition guidelines. And you can find all of that on the main webpage. There's different tabs for each of these. So the competition guidelines is located there. The FAQ, some of our most frequently asked questions that we've been getting since we launched the prize, we've compiled a bunch of them and some answers that can really help people clear up some doubts and answer any questions you might have. We hold frequent webinars every couple of weeks and as well as on different topics of interest throughout the competition. You can find all those webinars, upcoming webinars, including recordings of past webinars on our upcoming events and webinars tab. And then lastly, if you need to contact us, our team, you can email carbonremoval@xprize.org. And this is just, again, if you're having any technical issues, popsupport@xprize.org. And if you've got substantive questions about the competition or you're not sure if you're eligible, etc., email us at carbonremoval@xprize.org. Okay.
Thanks so much, Nikki and Michael and Rupa. Nikki, any closing comments from the presentations from your side? And then otherwise, we'll just open it up for questions and discussion here. And I don't think I need to be air traffic control here. Let's just open it up and people can use the electronic hand raising. And there's also been some things coming and going in the chat that people should look at. But I'll just hand it over to all of you. And thanks for the wonderful presentations. Very excellent summary of the situation and encouraging people to get involved. So Nikki, over to you and your colleagues.
Thank you. I don't have any closing comments at the moment, so why don't we just dig into the questions? Mike, I see you just answered one in the chat. Do you want to go ahead and just speak to that out loud for a minute?
Yeah, this is a really good question around the verification of technologies or CDR methodologies that may not have methodologies or protocols that exist today. I mentioned in my section of the presentation that one of the things we really value is the verification and really the measurability of the solutions that are being proposed here. So one of there's what I wrote in the chat was that in the final stages of the competition, we will be hiring third-party experts to develop bespoke verification plans if methodologies don't already exist. And where methodologies do exist, we'll still be hiring experts to go into the field and do that verification. But I wanted to add one more thing, which is that in the upcoming submission in February of 2022, there is a verification component, but we're asking each team to provide evidence of their own verification. So each team is responsible for finding a qualified third party, providing some evidence of their qualifications and independence, and submitting a report that essentially just says that the demonstration does in fact work as promised. So I think we have a question from Igor. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, so I'll let you guys go ahead and run the Q&A process here. I'll just stay out of the way.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All right, Igor, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, hello. Thank you for the presentation. Pretty exciting stuff. I've got two questions. One is what's your definition of teams? When you talk about, you always mention team. Is it a company, team within a company, or is it a team of companies? Yeah, that's great. number one. Okay. And number two, maybe I'll give you right after, is when you define the carbon capture, I guess the question of a scope, is it about the direct carbon removal, or because we're in robotics, so we are basically removing ships from the water, which are contributing quite a lot of CO2. So would that be in scope or out of scope?
Yeah, great question, Igor. I'll answer the second part first, and then maybe Nikki, do you want to talk about what we mean when we talk about teams? So the question of scope, if you're taking ships off the water, to me that is a carbon reducing technology, not a carbon removing technology, and so it wouldn't be in scope. Just from that very high level description. What we're talking about when we say carbon removal is actually taking molecules of CO2 out of the atmosphere and the surface layer of the ocean and sequestering them. So there needs to be sort of a net flux, downward out of the ecosystem. I hope that makes sense.
Makes sense. Yep. Thank you.
I'll just jump in just in terms of protocol here. If I know I suggested that people don't have their video on during the presentations, but if you're comfortable, when you are putting a question forward, feel free to put your video on. It's always nice to see folks and get to know them. And then after you've finished your intervention and the response and back and forth, and to take the camera off. I think that'd be kind of standard protocol, and great to see people as they put questions forward. Back over to you on the XPrize team.
I'll just respond to the other part of that question about teams. We do use the term teams quite a bit. We use that phrase to refer to anyone who is competing in the competition. But that really in the real world means startups, companies, university research departments. There is a bit of a range of, who might form a team to compete in the prize. So we're a little bit agnostic as to what the entity is itself, but it is meant to refer to the whole group and whatever their organization is. I see some more questions coming in here. Julie, why don't you go next?
Great, thank you so much for that presentation. I just had a question about the process and how many teams will be selected to compete for the final prize. That deadline coming up in February, and the 15 $1 million prizes. Is it just 15 companies that will then be selected to continue on?
A really good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is a little bit different than how we have run some of our competitions in the past. Normally we have more of a closed cohort model. So you have to get in at the beginning, and then we narrow down after each selection, and that's how teams advance in the competition. However, we have decided to try a more open model with this prize because, one, we know the state of innovation is advancing so rapidly, and two, the prize is so large, we want to make sure that we really get the best innovation into the funnel all the way through to the end. So there are a couple important milestones to keep in mind, but if you miss this first award cycle, you're not out of the picture completely. So if you want to apply for the milestone awards to be eligible for the 15 million, you have to register your team in the competition by December 1st of this year. And then your submission will be due on February 1st of next year. And we will award the 15 million next spring. So that kind of concludes that phase, and we enter into a new phase. So after that award money goes out the door, new teams have the opportunity to register again. You don't have to do it right away. You have all the way until, I believe it's December 1st, 2023 to register. And at that point, the submission requirement is going to be much more robust. So keep in mind that if you get in later, you have to be as far along as the teams who got in at the beginning. So you have to meet all of the requirements. You will need to have a full submission that shows the data of your complete end-to-end working system. And at that point, we will look at all of the applicants and select between 20 and 30 is what our goal is right now, finalists who will be with us as the final cohort of the competition, which is really just that last year. And that's when we'll go visit them and do the measurement and verification site visits. We'll go deeper on their life cycle analysis, their cost analysis, all of those details. And from that group, we'll pick the grand prize winners for 2025.
That was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Are there any other hands up that I'm not seeing?
There's a question in the chat from Thomas, who's asking another kind of question about whether particular technologies in scope. He says ocean thermal energy conversion has the potential to remove up to 50 billion tons of CO2 from fossil fuels. However, it does not remove CO2 unless the high nutrient deep ocean water is used for algae growth. Would OTEC qualify? So I have to admit, first of all, that I'm not a deep expert in that type of technology, or even in fact the nuances of ocean upwelling. So forgive me if my ignorance shines through, but the sort of the fundamental requirement is that the team can make a case that there is a net drawdown effect from the technology. I don't think that what you described would be out of scope, provided you can kind of provide that assurance. And I do know that there's some question in the scientific community about the measurement and verification of those kinds of technologies. So fundamentally, each team is responsible for making that case and providing whatever assurances the judges require to make, to support the case that there's a net drawdown occurring. But I do think that what you described could be in scope. So thanks for the question.
I think we have a hand raised from Wera. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yes, thank you so much. And hello, everybody. I'm Vera Loyak from the German Environment Agency, and I'm working in the section for the protection of the marine environment. And I have altogether a little bit different question to this competition. We are working on the potential negative impacts of CDR technologies on our oceans and observing them very closely. And to my knowledge, the current status is that we have very few technologies that can remove carbon sustainably from the oceans. And we have some demonstration projects. We are also aware of environmental adverse effects, for instance, of ocean fertilization and of ocean alkalinization, for instance. And we also have an international regime that regulates such activities. For instance, the London Protocol that currently allows only research but prohibits application. So I think, of course, CO2 removal is urgently needed, but and the price competition might be a good means of triggering innovations. But I would like to ask whether and how you consider sufficiently any potential adverse effects of these methodologies. In your criteria, I saw a little bit on that, but maybe not sufficiently. So how will you look at these adverse effects, the ones that are affecting the projects that will be demonstrated, but also especially the upscaling of these then also potentially adverse effects? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a very good question. I'll say a few remarks and then maybe pass it over to Mike. I think this is very important, especially in the ocean space. I think we intend to look at it from the perspective of the sustainability criteria. There is a section where we talk about the environmental impacts, and that will be where teams need to discuss the potential risks of each of their technologies. And then because we have a diverse judging panel who has expertise across all of the different areas, it is also part of their role to flag concerning projects. So people who are experienced in ocean CO2 removal are part of that panel. They will be reviewing all of the submissions, and we'll have a strong voice in flagging things that are risky or unknown, or things that we need to maybe even seek outside counsel for because it's more specific. So I think that this is going to be a common thread throughout the whole competition, of making sure that any of the projects being proposed and worked on do not pose negative risks. But I don't know if there's another angle to that, Mike, you'd like to add.
No, I think you basically hit it, Nikki. I think our approach has been largely to acknowledge the fact that each technology is going to come with it both co-benefits and risks. And we want to recognize each candidate technology's benefits where they can be quantified and verified. but also acknowledge the risks and the knock-on effects. So this does get very challenging when we're talking about sort of frontier technologies, and the ocean community is no stranger to those frontier technologies. So I definitely want to acknowledge that there are some challenges here. We're working hard to get ourselves up to speed. We also routinely hire contractors with expertise in these fields, and we discuss with various experts on a regular basis. Certainly going forward, as we have a better understanding of who the front runners in the competition are, we will sort of tool ourselves up to make sure we understand all the nuances of each proposed solution.
I might jump in from the World Ocean Council side with a couple of comments on that as well, because it's really a systems development level of things. And so with the incredible XPrize developments here, this will be accelerating and certainly taking carbon dioxide removal in the ocean to a whole nother level. At the same time, we have companies that are out there getting ready to deploy prototypes, et cetera. And so the monitoring, reporting, verification side is already a pressing issue, as I mentioned very briefly, and it's going to be an ongoing need, not in general, for moving forward with the ocean's role in CO2 removal. And it's already an issue in the blue carbon, the coastal ecosystem, the CO2 removal. So and Vera, you may have missed this in the early presentation on what the World Ocean Council is doing. So we're at the stage of both creating this business working group, business association for the CO2 removal, ocean CO2 removal community, and also beginning laying the groundwork, and very soon to begin convening a working group on the monitoring, reporting, verification technologies and protocols and standards that need to be developed that will support the XPrize process and its winners, but that broader community and effort of ocean carbon dioxide removal, so that we create the enabling conditions, address those very important challenges that you brought up, Vera, with the best minds and entrepreneurs, scientists, technology providers, et cetera, to really work this out. So we're not delaying the potential for good deployment of the appropriate, responsible, carefully developed technologies and opportunities that are taking account of these risks and moving forward appropriately. Thanks. I know there's other comments in the chat. I don't know if Michael and Nikki and Rupa, if you're checking those, and I don't see any hands right at the moment.
So Philip asked a really good question about our judges. Basically, the question is, how do we know that your judges are up to speed with the latest and greatest, especially in the ocean space, which is very rapidly developing? That's an excellent question. So we have not disclosed who the judges are yet, but we will. We always publish the names of our judges. They are independent third-party experts. We have 12 of them. They span a range of expertise covering each of the major CDR pathways, as well as a few cross-cutting fields like LCA and TEA and some other fields. So stay tuned for an announcement on who those judges are. We also, as I mentioned before, rely on contractors and advisors who have expertise in the field, and we really want to make sure that the judges are supported and understand the latest and greatest. But the fundamental point of this competition is that the demonstrations do need to kind of speak for themselves. Teams need to provide evidence and hard data that their technologies work. This is not a modeling exercise. We really try to avoid extrapolations wherever we can and rely on physical demonstrations to proceed. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're building a strategy for competing in the prize. We really do need to see sort of traditional boots on the ground operations, regardless of the pathway of consideration.
Mike, can I just add something about the judges? I did get another message during this session in the chat from someone asking about if we needed support from advisors or anything like that. So we have 12 judges that we'll be working with through the end of the competition, so for the full 4 years. But given the volume of the submissions that we're expecting to receive, we have kind of two-phase judging process that we're going to be going through. And the first phase, we are actually recruiting a handful of experts across each of the CDR pathways to do an initial round of reviews for us around the expertise that they have. So for all the ocean folks on this call, if you are not conflicted out because you might be competing in the competition and have expertise on one of these topics and would be interested in participating in some of those reviews, just ping us. I'll put my email directly into the chat so everybody has it. But if that's of interest to you, if you're a researcher or a professor connected to a university working on these topics and would like to be involved in that way, we are actually just starting to recruit those people right now. We'll probably be looking for roughly 5 to 10 experts in each of the pathway areas. So that's just a small call to action if it speaks to you at all.
Other comments or questions for our wonderful colleagues here from XPrize, and anything else in the chat room at the moment
Yeah,
that we need to catch up with? Please
there's
go
quite
ahead.
a few excellent questions here. And I'll just say, as we're running, I think we're running a little bit short on time. Again, visit our website, visit the FAQ. Also, we have upcoming webinars, Q&A webinars, where we're going to do exactly this. They often run over time. So there's lots of good questions out there. So feel free to keep engaging with us. A question about permitting. How do you envision conflict over permitting? Permits are going to be a huge challenge, especially in the ocean space. This is definitely something that's on our radar. We really want to understand how we can help teams and support teams in, getting the support they need to get the permit infrastructure in place. Because in some cases, it's not just a permit. It's like we don't even know how to begin. So we would love to help. It is fundamentally the responsibility of each team to secure their own permits and conduct themselves in ways that are in line with existing laws and regulations. So that's a really important requirement of the competition.
Looks like there's
Another
question, sorry, from Julie about if there are any geographic limitations. No, we are actually really excited to have a competition where the teams can choose their own demonstration locations. Oftentimes we have a formal kind of testing site or center where teams come, set up their shop and, run their technology for whatever the duration of the testing period is. But we wanted this to be also very flexible for people because we understand that there are many considerations going into where and how a team might like to build and demonstrate their solution. So that is up to you.
I'll just jump in to say that we did program up to 90 minutes here based on Nikki, our earlier conversations. And so the room is open until then. We can keep going as long as there's momentum and interest. And I'm assuming, Nikki, you guys are all available for another 20 some minutes. So we'll keep going as long as there's interest and energy here. So
no problem. That was my mistake. Okay.
I see the wheel spinning in your head there, Michael. So, oh no, that's a bicycle.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Same point on insurance. Phil points out that insurance is a huge challenge. We've dealt with this before. We had a huge challenge obtaining insurance or helping teams get insurance in the Energy COSIA Carbon XPrize. So we have a little bit of experience in this realm. I'm not going to say that I've got a silver bullet, but again, this is an area where we'd love to help. If you can articulate specific challenges, this is something we might be able to sort of like aggregate needs and maybe try to put something together, whether it's a letter of support or engaging with relevant authorities. But yeah, insurance is a requirement of the competition. When you sign the competitors agreement, you need to have you need to carry a certain amount of general liability coverage, and we know that can be a little bit of an issue. And unfortunately, we cannot provide the insurance for all. Certainly not at this time. I wish we could, but we can't at this time. There's another question about avoided emissions, and that's another really good question of scope. Lots of folks are working on avoided emissions. I want to be very clear that emissions avoidance is extremely important. Emissions reduction is extremely important, but neither of those are in scope for this competition. So, we love the work that you're doing. You can check out some of the resources that some of our partners are doing, like Circular Carbon Network, because those resources were developed to support all forms of carbon management, not just carbon removal. But for the prize money that we're talking about, only sort of net negative carbon removal is in scope.
I think there was one other piece to a question earlier about if the judges will be made public. I think they were also asking about if the teams will be made public. So if you're interested in looking at the teams that are currently registered in the competition, you can actually see that if you register and sign up for the prize operations platform that Rupa was explaining. So once you're in there, you'll actually see a profile for all the different teams, kind of a basic description of what they're working on. And then we will definitely publish more information about like each of the selected winners as we get to those phases. But for now, feel free to browse around in there and look if you're curious. Looks like we have a question from Philip. Go ahead.
You're just on mute.
Yeah, me again. Back to the insurance, Michael. Thank you for that answer. So my company, Ocean-Based Climate Solutions, currently is running naked. We have no insurance. We can't even answer the question, what do we do? Well, we know what we want to do, but when the insurance agent says, well, what are your revenues? 0. What's your payroll? Guess what? It's also 0, and so on and so forth. So can we self-insure and meet your specification for having insurance? Would that be a viable answer to the question checking that box? We're self-insured.
Yes, you can self-insure. We've dealt with, for example, academic institutions who are self-insured in the past. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the requirements for self-insurance would be. So that's something we would have to deal with, if you want to reach out to us offline, and we'll put you in touch with our legal team, or at least get that conversation going. But we try very hard not to let that be a barrier to entry. I'll just say that. We want to work with each team to make sure that they can compete, but we have to make sure that we do so, safely and
sure.
Risk-free. So it's as far as we can.
Okay, thank you.
I think we might be caught up on questions. If anybody else sees one, please jump in or raise your hand again if we've missed you. I do see a nice greetings from Okinawa, Japan. Hello back to Edward. I don't know if there was a question in there. We'd love to see some more Japanese teams in the competition.
Any other questions in the chat that people want to submit, or raise their hands and verbally put forward any comments or concerns or questions you have?
Do we have any matchmaking webinars coming up, Rupa? Do you want to give a quick plug for
yes,
our webinar work?
We have one scheduled for November 16th. So that is a matchmaking webinar. This will be our 4th matchmaking webinar, and what they are is teams that are looking for additional team members with specific skill sets, kind of do a brief pitch on their technology and what they're about and what skills they're looking for in people. And then towards the end, we hold breakout sessions with each team that pitches, so people can network and introduce themselves and that sort of thing. So they've been pretty well received so far, and we've had a few instances of teams, people joining teams and things like that. So check our events page. There is a link to register for that meeting, as well as an application to pitch if you're a team that is looking for more team members. So really encourage you all to join that. It's probably going to be the last one that we will have this year. So highly recommend that you all check that out.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Yeah. And I've just put my contact information in there for those of you that are interested, that are coming from the business and investment side of things, and or investment side of things, that we do, as mentioned in the introductory comments, we do have this Ocean CDR Blue Carbon Roundtable designed for, in keeping with the entire role and purpose of the World Ocean Council, bringing together the business and investment community. So if that's you and this is your Ocean CDR or Blue Carbon, please send me a note to get involved in our ongoing roundtable. And again, there were some questions that came to me directly in the chat about the monitoring, reporting, verification working group we're getting going. That's a real work in progress that we hope to be announcing soon. And there is the official side event on Ocean CDR in a kind of an expanded, broader sense. That was just approved a few days ago as an official side event at COP26. So a lot of incredibly important and exciting things going on. And the XPrize carbon removal project is really taking this all to a whole new level. And so we're so honored to be able to partner with XPrize to have this event, and certainly Nikki and Mike and Ropa, anything we can do to facilitate and keep engaging the ocean business and entrepreneur community in helping really take on the ocean challenge here. Let's keep figuring that out and facilitate that engagement and make as much effort on this as is possible come to fruition. So with that, I think I'll leave it over to you all then to any closing thoughts or comments, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for that and for the time today, everyone. We really appreciate you joining. And, you know, the questions are helpful for us every time we're on. It forces us to think about new things sometimes to make sure we're communicating it all very clearly. We're very excited about the ocean component of this competition, and it really opens up the opportunity for innovation significantly for us and to really work with a lot of new innovators. So we really hope to see you involved in whatever capacity that makes sense. If you will be a team, we look forward to seeing your submissions soon. If you have other interests in being an advisor or a contractor in any other way, have things to offer that the competition might be able to use, definitely reach out to us. We are always looking for that and talking to people on a regular basis. So thank you so much for your time today. And with that, I think we can go ahead and close.
Can I dive in with a last quick question? We've got several technologies within our organization. Can we come in with multiple proposals, or should we do the independent applications?
Yeah, if you have more than one proposal, you have to register multiple teams, which is fine, and that's not an issue on our end. There might be reach out to us if you need help kind of administering that, but more than happy to accommodate multiple proposals from one company.
Great, thank you. Well, I might reach out to you at some point.
Sure.
Okay, well, Nikki, Mike, Rupert, thank you so much. Thanks everyone who has participated and those that asked questions. This has been recorded. We will make the recording available and post that on social media and otherwise through the World Ocean Council channels, so that this can be available to our colleagues who weren't able to join at this time. And we'll continue this work together and get these great challenges sorted out because we need to collectively engage and really solve this great climate challenge that's in front of us. So with that, thanks again, and we will look forward to continuing to work with all of you. All the best.
Thanks, everyone.
Great.
Thank you. Very good presentation.